It's been a while since I did a Battlefield video, and this video will pretty much cover it because I've been a bit frustrated with it lately, and we're going to have a look at why and explain why in this one. Ultimately, I've decided to go naked for Battlefield 4. Now, if you think that means me being naked in this video, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, because that's not what I mean. I think if I did do that, it'd need a health warning, because I suspect your instant reaction would probably be to wash your eyes with bleach. I am, of course, talking about weapon attachments. I've had various issues since the spring patch. The most annoying one being that I was missing so many shots that I used to hit so easily before. I was aware that the attachments had been hit pretty hard, but the patch notes did not explain why and what was happening. Also, within the game, there's no indication or explanation of any of these nerfs, buffs whatsoever, and if you're like me and just go back into the game with the same attachments and the same setups as you did before, you'll have probably run into this problem as well. I tap fire pretty much every gun. Even the guns that you don't need to tap fire, I still do it anyway. The main reason for that is for bullet conservation and to help me track a target as they're moving around. Now, the tap fire's worst enemy was always first shot recoil, so I often used to counter this with things like the muzzle brake and the angled and folding grip. It took away pretty much all of the first shot recoil in most cases and just made it easy to control. Before the spring patch, those grips had no negative impact on the gun at all. Since the spring patch, and after many hours of banging my head on the table, blaming lag, blaming my control pad, blaming my PlayStation 4, blaming next door's cat, calling everybody that killed me a cheat, and exploring every other vent of frustration, I decided to take a look at why I was doing so much worse than I was before, and I've managed to find the reason. Angle grips now have a penalty which increases the time it takes for your bullet spread to reset by 34%. Now that means if you shoot again before it's reset, then the bullet is going to miss what you're aiming at. But hang on a minute, I said to myself. I often talk to myself, nobody argues. But hang on a minute. Before, you could tap fire instantly, with no problems whatsoever. So the reset values must have been so low that they were almost non-existent. What's 34% of non-existent? For anyone bad at maths, that would also be non-existent. Turns out that was fucking wrong. I clearly tap so quickly that the spread has just been getting fatter and fatter for each trigger pull, to the point where my last bullet has more chance of hitting the USS Voyager than it does the guy I'm actually aiming at. So how do you fix it? It seems there's no way to get it back exactly the way it was before, but there are some options that may help. Firstly, you could keep the gun set up the way you always have and just take your time. Wait for longer between your bursts. After a little testing, a slight pause between your taps can help reduce that spread back to reasonable levels, but the issue with that is you are giving your opponent far more time to react and shoot back or dive into cover. If they do shoot back, and you're trying this method, if they do shoot back, don't panic. Remember, they have the same problem that you do. If you land in that panic trap and start spamming, you will miss again. Now, this sounds very easy. It isn't. You end up fighting the natural reaction that you've developed over the lifespan of the game. The second option, go naked. Take everything off the gun. Remove the grip penalty entirely. Now the downside to this is that you lose the extra control that you had before, so the recoil goes up, making the gun much more difficult to handle. The benefit to this is that you now instinctively know when to send more bullets because the recoil gives you visual feedback. You know by sight and feel when you can fire again because you have to bring the gun back on target. I think the changes have hit the average middle ground players the hardest, as they will be the ones that had enough skill to have figured out the best way of doing things before, but then fallen into the trap and issue that I'm having of finding those habits really hard to break. So if you were on the verge of throwing your disc like a frisbee over next door's fence, stop, have a nice cup of tea, a dippy biscuit, put the disc back in the console and give those options a try. You'll get the hang of it. I would say though, one thing that's really frustrated me, they've done such a bad job of making these changes clear. The level of digging and researching I've had to go through to find out why I'm now struggling in this game should not be needed. If anybody's got any comments or anything they want to discuss, by all means leave one below. But that's all for now.